Hello and welcome to another episode of Lost in the Dark podcast. I am Burton, and I'm solo again in the crypt tonight. But we will be, tonight is one topic and one topic only. Godzilla King of Monsters. No leads will be buried. I don't even feel qualified to call this a review because I'm not going to be objective whatsoever. Yeah, I absolutely fucking loved it, and we're going to talk about it, so we're going to get right into it right now. Okay, so basically, for anyone who doesn't know, this is the third installment in this current iteration of the franchise in the American Godzilla legendary monsterverse. Fucking started with the 2014 Godzilla, which actually got announced that it was being made in like 2009, 10ish, and I'd been like kind of following its progress until it came out in 2014, starring Bryan Cranston, directed by Gareth Edwards. Also had what's his name? I forget his name, but he was Kick-Ass. He was the guy from Kick-Ass, and Elizabeth Olsen, who's Scarlet Witch in the Avengers, and they Kick-Ass also played Quicksilver in the Avengers too. That was Godzilla 2014, and the biggest complaint people seemed to have about that movie was how little Godzilla was actually in the movie. He was only had like 10 minutes or so worth of screen time. Now, that was everybody else's complaint. For me, though, I was like, that's the best 10 minutes of Godzilla, like, pretty much ever. So I fucking loved every second of it, and I actually liked that movie a lot, even if it was just for those 10 minutes pretty much. And, so I rewatched the movies before this one came out, and for anyone out there who watches the show Letterkenny, the main guy, Wayne, was in fucking Godzilla. He was one of the guys during the famous, like, Halo jump scene. He was, like, the leader of that squad or whatever the fuck. Rewatch that shit. You'll see him. I was like, wait, what the fuck? That was cool. Yeah. But yeah, so that was the kind of the first crack at it. There was no post-credit scene in that movie, and it just kind of like acted to set things up a little bit. But it was pretty much solely focused on the specific family and how this situation was affecting them and stuff like that. A lot of people didn't really like the human side of the story. Then the second one to be released, but would be the first one chronologically, was Kong Skull Island. And in Kong Skull Island, I think it's set in like the 60s, and you see Monarch is like almost about to be defunded, and then they go to Skull Island and discover all the monsters in King Kong. I love Skull Island. I thought it was an awesome reimagining of the King Kong story, and it had a lot of really awesome callbacks to the original King Kong storylines. And it did a better job at starting to expand this world, the legendary monsterverse, a little bit more. And it added a post-credit scene where it literally showed fucking spoilers for all of this, including King of Monsters. It showed like cave paintings of Mothra, Rodan, Godzilla, and one of Godzilla fighting King Ghidorah. And that set up, all this stuff, and also continued to set up this narrative that the monsters, the Titans, as they call them in the movies, the Titans, fucking once ruled the earth, and they were once like worshipped as gods by ancient civilizations. So a lot of, things, a way to look forward as to future storylines where they could go with the movie is a way to look back at, what they've set up through that kind of stuff, which is really cool. Then Godzilla King of Monsters does the best job yet at expanding that universe and that story. First of all, the movie opens, okay, with a flashback The movie opens and we're back in San Francisco. Like the camera's from the ground looking up at the sky and you see the Halo jumpers. So literally the moment that the guys are jumping down in Godzilla 1 is where we're at. And then it comes back, pans back, and we see our new main characters, and we discover that one of them has died, and then immediately Godzilla walks by. So literally in the first 60 seconds pretty much of the movie, Godzilla's on screen. And it actually gives us another minute of him on screen from the first one. So now he's been in it for 11 minutes technically. But so that was fucking awesome. And then we meet you know what, here, let me actually look up their actual fucking names and shit. Honestly, I don't remember any of the humans' names in the movie at all. I've seen it twice, for the record. Okay, Dr. Emma Russell. We end up with her and Millie Bobby Brown. I know her name. So she's having the flashback, and she's one of the ones the camera focused on. It's one of the new characters. And now we jump to present time where she is her and Millie Bobby Brown. In this first kind of sequence, we quickly discover that the parents have become separated. Millie Bobby Brown is reaching out to her dad via email. Mom is kind of worrisome about that, but in the email she's saying, "I'm worried about Mom," so we know something's going on there. Mom says, "I finished it." There's some kind of thing she's working on. Will it work? I don't know. And then the whole place starts to rumble, and we realize we're not just at a normal house. We're actually at a monarch outpost. And we start to learn that there are many monarch outposts all over the world that are monitoring all the different discovered titans. This particular monarch outpost, where they were monitoring Mothra. And then right away it goes into the sequence of Mothra basically being born. Mothra gets born, and then Dr. Emma Russell uses the thing that she was saying it'll work this time, which is like a bioacoustics thing. And it's basically like a way to talk to and slightly control the Titans. And so, yeah, Mothra, something fucks up. Mothra's going crazy for a second as basically a baby Mothra before it gets born into real Mothra. And it's fucking going crazy for a second. They use that to settle it down, and then all of a sudden someone breaks into the lab and shoots everyone except for those two. And we think these are the bad guys that are there to take, the machine, the bioacoustics machine or whatever. So, then I believe then we jump to a scene where we see two of the characters from the first Godzilla movie. Let me find them real quick. Vivian Graham and Dr. Ishiro Shirazawa. They were both in the first one, they're the main monarch scientists and all that stuff. And it's those two and this other guy. It's pretty big, actually. I should know his name. Thomas Middleditch. He plays Sam Coleman in the movie. It's those three, and they're fucking addressing a government thing, and it's a great sequence where they have some clips from the first Godzilla movie and Skull Island where they're talking about, and we actually see Kong in some clips there, and they're talking about how the government wants to kill all the Titans right away, and Monarch's like, no, that's not the thing to do, back and forth, and then they get the call that their lab, the Mothra lab, got broken into and everybody's dead and Mothra's gone. Mothra goes off and cocoons under a waterfall somewhere to become Mothra basically. And so then they gotta go fucking essentially at that point get their Kyle Chandler's character, Mark Russell, Dr. Emma Russell's ex-husband and Millie Bobby Brown's dad, to come and fucking find him because he's a former Monarch employee and he worked with Dr. Serizawa and all that stuff. So there we go. We're off to the races. Fucking, we're currently under the impression that Millie Bobby Brown and her mom are being held captive by guys trying to like break out and control the Titans, and now we got Dad coming to the rescue with Monarch, and he ends up it's around at this point where they're talking to him about the bioacoustics machine, and at that point they tell him that there are 17 discovered Titans. Okay. So including, and we learn about all of them a little bit in the movie, which is one of the big surprises. Obviously, we have Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. We also have King Kong, the first two Mutos from the first Godzilla movie, that's what they called the monsters, the Muto monsters. And then we actually have a third one in this movie. We have Titus Behemoth, which is like a cross between a woolly mammoth and a gorilla thing that we see. Skyla, which is a giant spider. Titus Skyla, and Titus Methuselah, which was like the giant mountain titan we saw in the trailers. And then the name that we have names, but we never actually see these ones. There's Mokili Membe, Baphomet, Tiamat, Typhoon, Abaddon, Leviathan, Sargent, and Bunnyip. Now, you know what I mean? See, that's the thing, is from the original Toho monsters, there was Kumonga, which was a giant spider. So could Skyla be Kumonga, or just the American version or whatever? Could, one of the other monsters that I just listed be, a giant, like, praying mantis like Kamacuras, or a giant fucking crab like Ibira? You know what I mean? Like, it could be, a bat thing. I know there was a giant octopus, you know what I mean? So there could be some more crossovers with previous Toho characters, but at the moment, the only real Toho characters were the main ones in the movie, even though we actually did end up getting to see a whole bunch more of the monsters. So he discovers there's 17 of them, and then they're at like a Monarch lab fucking that monitors Godzilla. Godzilla shows up, and they have that really wonderful sequence of like them in the underground lab, and Godzilla's underwater, and he's just looking at him, and it's fucking oh my god. Just the beauty of the sequences that we get in this movie. Like the way everything just it's everything you've ever wanted the Godzilla movies to be. And then fucking they figure out he's going up to Alaska because that's where the other characters are, and they are waking up what they call, which I loved, Monster Zero. They didn't have a name for it yet. They just called it Monster Zero, which was a callback definitely to the original Toho movies. And then they have this amazing sequence where they basically awaken King Ghidorah, and he busts out of that fucking ice, and Godzilla shows up, and they have a battle right there, like early in the movie. And it's a fucking in the Antarctic, so in the snow, in the ice, and all that stuff. And one thing I started to notice right away was that I'm pretty sure that throughout the movie, because for people that have paid a lot of attention, there are many different Godzilla roars from over the years. Like, Godzilla has sounded different depending on the movie he's in. So I think in this movie, they literally use different roars from different Godzillas at different points. And because I was listening very carefully for that. And I'm pretty sure that's what they did, and I fucking loved it, because it gives you the ability to give Godzilla's voice roar sound more of a personality. You know what I mean? Like, to actually use different ones and stuff like that, because they all sound a little bit different. And so I thought that was really fucking awesome. But because I thought there was one part where he was like falling down into the ice, and the way his roar sounded, I was like, that sounds like the original one almost. Like, it was fucking awesome. But they have this wonderful battle sequence up in the ice, and then King Ghidorah gets freaked out and flies away. And another cool thing they did with Ghidorah in this one is wherever he goes, there's like he's so massive, he literally creates like a Category 6 hurricane wherever he's at. So that was pretty fucking cool. And then after the Ghidorah sequence. So yeah, and then one complaint I would have about this movie is there were 3 character deaths that I was like, really? Like, I don't feel like I didn't feel like that needed to happen, and B, didn't really feel the emotional impact from it very much at all. The first one was Sally Hawkins' Vivian Graham. Again, she was the lady from the first movie, and it was just during that sequence they were running, and King Ghidorah just ate her. Like, it was nothing. That was fucking... I thought that was a weird character death. I don't know. And that was just the first one, though. Little did I know. And then I'm pretty sure the next part, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure the next part is they go to the next Monarch outpost, which was Rodan. And because they like lose King. They say they lose King Ghidorah in a hurricane, but they didn't know he was the hurricane at that point. And then I don't remember what, but some other shit must have happened. And then fucking they end up going to the Rodan one, and he breaks out, and fucking they made that thing so fucking awesome looking. It was unreal. Like, his wings were like on fire for most of the time, and he just looked like this terrifying fucking pterodactyl beast that just is the last thing you ever want to see when you're flying in the air in an airplane. And holy shit, did he fuck with some airplanes. Like, it was fucking beautiful. And there's this great sequence where they realize that the hurricane is Ghidorah because it starts heading towards Rodan, and they fucking oh yeah, that's why they went there, because fucking okay. So during the King Ghidorah sequence, that's when we discover basically that Dr. Emma Ross, in fact, was not kidnapped, and this was all her plan all along. And her plan is to use her device, the Orca device, to use the sound waves to awaken and release all the Titans to stop humans from polluting and all this and that, and bring back natural order and all that kind of stuff. We essentially kind of figure that out more or less during like that whole like the King Ghidorah sequence and after. And then then they're like, all right, we're about to use the fucking Orca thing to wake up Rodan. And he's the next one to be awoken. So then they do that. King Ghidorah hears the Orca, starts flying towards that. And the humans decide to distract Rodan and fly him straight towards King Ghidorah for a big, massive fucking fight there. That was an aerial fight between Ghidorah and Rodan. And it was fucking... Oh my god, some of those sequences. It almost was like fucking Cthulhu, you know what I mean? It was just fucking awesome. And then there's this great shot where King Ghidorah is heading straight towards the human ship, but then Godzilla pops out of nowhere and bites his neck and takes him down. And then we get a call from the government or from the military, and they're like, "Get the fuck out of there. We've been testing a new bomb. We're about to drop it and try to end this all right now." The new bomb was an oxygen destroyer, which is what they used to kill Godzilla in the very, very first ever Godzilla movie. So that was a huge callback, which I thought was awesome. So they dropped the bomb, and it doesn't do dick to Ghidorah, but it almost kills Godzilla. And then it's right about then that Mothra hatches from the cocoon, and flies over to where Godzilla went down. And the humans go over there, and they are like, all right, let's go fucking take a nuke to Godzilla to kind of like wake him up, because that's what he feeds off of, nuclear energy. And it's during this sequence that we go into like underwater, and we kind of go where like Godzilla like rests, and he rests in the spot that's very high in nuclear energy, but it's a massive underground like buildings, like civilization. There's a whole fucking civilization, and that's where they discover all this shit of like that's basically where they once worshipped Godzilla and all that kind of stuff. It was actually really awesome and added a lot to the fucking lore. So they're down there, and then the next character death that occurs that I thought was dumb was Dr. Serizawa himself. He was like, it was hilarious. They're like, there's no way to get the sub on the way down like bumped into something, so they couldn't launch the missile. And there's no way, they were like stuck on the outer edge of the radiation. There's no way to get the missile to Godzilla essentially without them dying. And Dr. Serizawa was like, I'll do it. And they're like, what? No. He's like, there's no time to argue. I'll go. Boom. And that's it. That was just it. That was okay. I guess you're just gonna go die. All right. But I mean, it was kind of a beautiful sequence because he was like standing there, got to take off his helmet, he got to finally touch Godzilla, and like he was looking at his watch, which his dad gave him in Hiroshima. There we go. Yeah. So it was a cool sequence, but I was like, that was totally unnecessary. Like we could have definitely found a way out of that, and felt like a real lazy scene put together there a little bit. I don't know. But, so I thought that was a little silly. But in any case, they got it down there. He fucking blew it up and saved Godzilla. And so Godzilla comes back up. And now there's a lot of cool sequences in Washington, D.C. because that's where King Ghidorah was like nesting for a minute. And then Millie Bobby Brown gets mad at her mom. She steals the Orca device and takes it. She's at a hidden Monarch bunker outpost just north of Boston. So she steals the thing, goes to the evacuated city of Boston, gets to Fenway Park, and plays the Orca sound to attract King Ghidorah up there. That happens, and then Godzilla shows up for the final showdown. And, oh yeah, real quick though. We did learn one of the greatest callbacks ever. One of my favorite things in the movie was Dr. Ling, I want to say. Let me just make sure I got that right. Or Dr. Chen. Right? Yeah. Dr. Chen, yeah, okay. Ling Chen and Eileen Chen. There we go. So Chen's, they turn out, so anyone who's familiar with the Toho Godzilla movies, you know about the Mothra twins, which were like two little fairy twins that could telepathically communicate with Mothra, and they were like symbiotically connected and all this stuff. And actually in the first time Mothra and Godzilla meet, Mothra is the bad guy, or so we think, until we find out Mothra is only being the bad guy to rescue her friends. So, and Mothra is known as the queen of the monsters, while Godzilla is the king. The Chen sisters were shown to be descendants of them, so third generation monarch scientists. And we only got a brief shot of one of them, but yeah, it was. I thought that I was like, no fucking way. They're going all the way back, bringing in that old lore and like the reference to Monster Zero, and then they discovered more cave wall paintings that referred to him as Ghidorah. And another thing about King Ghidorah is his heads can regenerate in this movie. Previous movies they couldn't, but in this one he had a pretty fucking brutal ass regeneration sequence when Godzilla bit off one of his fucking heads. Yeah, I think that was pretty much. So yeah, then we get to Boston and Godzilla shows up, and it's the final showdown. And Ghidorah at this point, that's happening while the parents are looking for Millie Bobby Brown's character all over the place, and they have the Orca machine, and Godzilla and Ghidorah are fighting, and but then they say, shit, what Dr. Serizawa did charged up Godzilla too much. He's going to explode like an atom bomb in 12 minutes, so we only got 12 minutes to do what we got to do. And which is also a reference to burning Godzilla, when he actually died in one of the movies, and he was like turning all red and shit. So what the fuck happens basically is they fucking fight one of the most glorious fighting sequences I've ever fucking seen with Godzilla. Like constant fucking electricity lightning going back and forth. Ghidorah's like charging himself up on power stations and like fighting off Godzilla. And there's a beautiful shot where he like literally picks up Godzilla, flies way up in the air, and then just drops him on the ground. He's about to fucking kill him, and they turn on the Orca machine to distract him for a minute. That gives Godzilla enough time to get up. Mothra shows up, is on Godzilla's side, is a good guy in this one, starts fighting off Ghidorah a little bit, and then fucking Rodan comes in out of nowhere to knock the fuck out of Mothra. Now, also, one thing I forgot to mention earlier is King Ghidorah started waking up all the other monsters. So all 17 monsters across the globe are now like wreaking havoc in cities all across the planet. So the whole world is under destruction at this point. Because they respond to whoever the alpha is. And King Ghidorah was the alpha, so they were doing his bidding, essentially. And so Rodan is responding to the alpha and fighting off Mothra, and there's a lot of great sequences with those two fighting. Mothra ends up beating him, but then right as Godzilla's down, Mothra like crawls up onto him and does his like sacrifices herself, takes a big blast, but then when she dies, she gets poofed into like regeneration powder, which got onto Godzilla, which was done in a movie before, except reverse, where Godzilla killed her and her powder landed on and revived King Ghidorah. But this time it was the opposite, and fucking so Godzilla gets back up, and then I think he does the fucking big drop, and then he becomes basically burning Godzilla, where he is fucking all red and shit. And it's right around in there when they turn back on the Orca machine. Dr. Emma Russell, the mom, is like decides to just not get on the plane and go with them for whatever weird ass reason, and she gets in the Jeep and just drives off to distract King Ghidorah, which granted does work, but she dies in the process. And it's right around then that Burning Godzilla shows up, and he uses this like sonic blast to fucking basically melt everything, including Ghidorah, and he fucking roasts the shit out of King Ghidorah and kills him. And then right around then, all the other fucking, well, at least like 4 or 5 of the other monsters show up, including Rodan, and they all like literally bow to him as king of the monsters. And that's it. Then the movie fucking ends. And then there's a little bit more. And I like how they did the credits, because there's a lot of information in the credits, like newspaper clippings and stuff. And they were actually showed us, like, we didn't see Kong himself, but we saw a lot of cinematic shots of Skull Island. But they talked about finding another Mothra egg, so we know the Mothra's going to be back. and a lot about like stuff going on Skull Island and what's going on Skull Island and new Titans on Skull Island and all this and that. And then, of course, there was the post-credit scene where the bad guys that Dr. Emma Russell was originally with, but at one point during the movie, she left to go save her daughter, and they were just left behind. They were just there. They are back down I forget the island's name, but back where Rodan basically was. And you remember I said Godzilla bit off one of his heads earlier in the movie. It was in that sequence. One of Ghidorah's heads, and they have Ghidorah's head. So maybe that means in a future movie they're setting up a Mecha King Ghidorah, which would be fucking crazy. But yeah, so this shit was chaos, okay? Also, the music. The music in this movie, they literally use music from the original movies. And but they kind of tweaked it a little bit, and it was beautiful. I thought the score in the movie was absolutely fantastic. Really kept with added a lot to it, I felt. There was one thing I did want to mention. There was one part in the trailer. It's when Millie Bobby Brown is messing with the radio frequencies and listening and stuff. That was never in the movie. But as far as I could tell, that's pretty much the only sequence that was in the trailers that wasn't in the movie. But I'm really excited to have this come out on Blu-ray and get a lot of the extra features. I'm hoping that they talk a lot about a lot of the other stuff. I was kind of hoping that the post-credit scene would, maybe be on Skull Island or give us a quick glimpse of Kong or something like what's going on. But could just set up because March 13th, I believe. Yeah, March 13th of next year is when Godzilla vs. Kong comes out. So, which was the 4th movie installment in this series. So yeah, I was expecting a little bit more of a setup there, but yeah, coming from a kid who grew up on this stuff, always loved this stuff, who, I existed, I wasn't exposed to quote-unquote toxic fandom until the internet came around. So, I just loved anything that said Godzilla on it. So I even loved the fucking terrible, terrible 1999 one just because it said Godzilla. And I was 9 years old, and I loved all things Godzilla. You know what I mean? So to have it get treated with this kind of respect, to have... To watch the couple interviews I do have watched with the directors of these two movies and stuff, and to basically see guys that are like, yeah, this was my favorite shit when I was 9 years old, and have those guys be the ones making these movies now and treating it with that kind of care is just so awesome to be alive right now and be seeing this and be able to be excited about it and everything. Man. I think it's just under 2.5 hours long. Probably didn't need to be that long. Probably could have cut out some of the human stuff, But a lot of it, I really liked the way a lot of it moved. Everything went from one thing to the next. I felt pretty well, all in all. But yeah, I loved it top to bottom. I will be probably seeing it at least one more time in theaters. And I am unbelievably excited for Godzilla vs. Kong, because growing up, Godzilla vs. King Kong was my favorite Godzilla movie. So the fact that they're actually doing that one is unfucking real to me. I certainly wish that we could have seen more Toho Kaiju's, Titans. It would have been awesome if instead of, another Muto or a weird woolly mammoth thing, it was Gigan, and Anguirus. That would have been awesome. But I don't think they have the rights to them all. And ultimately, I think that's the reason why. But yeah, I still loved it. And I was so excited to see that there were more fucking Titans. Also, what did I say? The mountain one was really cool. That Titan. What was that one's name? Methuselah. He was the mountain Titan that you see in the trailers, the big mountain moving. And honestly, that's about all you see of him. You see maybe a couple more glimpses. You see him the least, which bummed me out because I thought he was the coolest and looked like something that would have been from the Toho world. So yeah. I thought that, but I hope we get to see more of that. And you know what? I'd be willing to bet at this point that we're going to see a lot more than just Godzilla and Kong and Godzilla vs. Kong. So fingers crossed for that. But all in all, I fucking loved the movie. I had goosebumps all the way through. They held back on nothing, and it's everything I wanted it to be and more. Yeah, I was... I was blown away. So, fucking great job. Great job, everyone that made that one. And I am... Countdown is officially on for the next 11 months till the next one. So, can't wait till this comes out on Blu-ray, though, and check out some of the features and everything. Very excited. So, if you have not seen Godzilla King of Monsters yet, do it. What the hell are you doing? If you like big monster fights, go fucking see that shit. It is beautiful. Like just some of the shots, some of the scenery and some of the shots, is just something you never thought you'd get, and there it is right there, and it's fucking glorious in every way, shape, and form. So yeah, that's my I don't know, not a review, rant, gloating, fucking dick sucking of monstrous proportions of the new Godzilla King of Monsters movie. I hope you see it, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Maybe not if you didn't grow up with it, but even still, it is. It's if you like the big monster fights, it's probably one of the best ever on screen. So definitely go check that out. But yeah, that's going to be it for me on this one. We will be back as much as I can be this week, but this weekend I'm actually heading out of the country for the first time. Well, I've been to Canada, but overseas for the first time ever. I'm heading to Scotland with the family, so that'll be exciting. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram to keep updated while I'm away on vacation, and we will be back again after that. And be sure on June 21st, be sure to be at the Sanctuary down in Detroit to see Bog Wraith with the breathing process and Boreworm and more. It's going to be a great show. It's the next one we're going to be at. And, yeah, and keep an eye out for Recorruptor. Check out Recorruptor. They got a new album coming out very soon, so be sure to check that out on social media. And check out their first album, which came out the year before last year, I want to say. Blood Moon. It is awesome. So check that out for sure. But yeah, that's going to be it for me tonight. I hope you enjoyed. I love you all to death. I'll be back soon. Good night.